Welcome to The Spotlight, the podcast where veterans and military spouses connect and share how their military experience has transformed their lives and their businesses. Here's your host, Bob Louthen.
Hey, this is your host, Bob Louthen, founder of the VeteranCrowd Network, the network that brings veterans and veteran-led businesses together with each other and the resources they need to prosper. And you are tuning into The Spotlight. Our guest today is Jay Collins, Republican candidate for Congress in the Tampa, Florida area. A decorated combat veteran and Green Beret, Jay Collins' political views are his own and do not speak for Operation BBQ Relief. Hey, welcome everybody. This is Bob Louthen, host of The Spotlight on the VeteranCrowd Network. Today we're going to dive into politics. About 5 years ago, I wrote a little piece called Vision 2020, where I said, you know what, the biggest thing we needed in Congress were more veterans. We needed more. At the end of World War II, about 70% of the people in Congress had military experience. Well, unfortunately, that number has dwindled a great deal. Well, this guest today is trying to make a difference in that regard. Jay Collins is running in the 14th District in Florida as a Republican candidate. That's the area around Tampa. Jay, welcome to The Spotlight. Thank you for being our guest today.
Man, I am so thankful to be on. I appreciate this, Bob. And, you know, I love that you talk about the greatest generation. It wasn't what they did in the war that really set them aside. It's what they did after war to raise our country up and elevate us as we move forward.
We're going to come back to that topic because I believe the next greatest generation is here right now and is going to make an impact as significant in many ways as what your grandfather and my dad did when they came home from Europe in World War II. You've been, active in a lot of things, Jay, but let me ask you this fundamental question. Why did you decide to run for Congress?
Well, that's a very great question. And luckily, it's a pretty easy one. You know, as I look around our world right now, we have Afghanistan unfolding in a way that's completely unacceptable to any veteran, anybody who served our nation. We're the leader of the free world, and we have to leave our battles and support our allies with honor and dignity. You know, as you look at the landscape in politics, we have too many politicians, too many career politicians, too many political dynasties. Look, I'm not a politician. I'm a retired Green Beret. I'm an amputee. I'm a husband. I'm a father. I'm a nonprofit leader. In the end, our republic was founded on the concept of government of the people, by the people, and for the people. And the best way to do that is to truly elect representation that knows what it's like to get up and take care of the children, to go to work. Somebody who'll represent American ideas, ideals, and principles. That's why I'm running for Congress.
Let's share with everybody a little bit of your military story. How did you get into the Army in the first place? What happened?
Well, I'll tell you, we talked about it a little bit. My grandparents adopted me. I was raised on the stories my dad shared, his ethos, his belief in the military and service before self, in making a difference for those around you. Ultimately, that you got to make things better than you got it. As I, graduated high school, I went to college for a couple of years, and frankly, it wasn't the right fit. I knew I wasn't quite ready, so I joined the military. And I knew that it was going to help grow me into what I wanted to be, take me to the places I wanted to go. And ultimately, 23 years later, I fell in love with it. I would have done it as long as I humanly could, but being a Green Beret is a young person's game, and it's definitely that way on one leg. I'm so thankful to have been a part of that community. I never had to work quite so hard to be average, to be honest with you.
Did you go in the Army as an infantry recruit in the beginning before you went to the qual school?
So I actually joined the National Guard as an infantryman, was medically removed from the National Guard, came active duty as an intelligence analyst because they wouldn't let me be infantry, and then ultimately made my way into special forces.
How long had you been in when you went to the qual school?
About 5.5 years.
5.5 years. Okay, so what year was that? What year was that?
So I went to selection in November of 2002.
Okay.
Yeah, we had just been at war for a short while. I was actually in jump school in getting ready to go to the 82nd Airborne Division during 9/11. We had just done our first jump the day before the towers were hit. And the day the towers were hit, we flew around for hours waiting to jump, had no idea. I was newly married. My wife was in DC. We hit the ground. I couldn't get in touch with her. We didn't have cell phones like we do now, obviously. And we all knew that our world had changed. And at no way, shape, or form did I realize we were going to be this involved for this many years. And it was going to have such a huge outcome on my life and our generation's lives.
You couldn't make a phone call in or out of DC on 9/11 anyway, with all of the craziness that was going on up there. So in 2007, you take a mortar round, get attacked. That's how you initially got hurt.
That's correct. Yeah, 2007, we were up in the mountains of Afghanistan, up in Kosovo, Oregon, and I'd been injured a couple of times. I got hit by a ricochet earlier that year. Ended up doing a partial fasciotomy on the fire base with our junior medic, myself, and some teammates before going and getting some more medical treatment. Came back and, after about 30 days and continued to serve. And then it was the very first time they were trying to overrun fire bases in 2007 at Fire Base Anaconda. And ultimately, we took some mortar rounds. I got peppered with some shrapnel, took a bounce down some stairs, and got back up, dusted it off, and stayed in theater. I had no idea how close to the overpressure I was, how bad my injuries were. But what I did know is that my brothers, my friends were there with us, and we were fighting off the enemy, and they needed all hands on deck to go ahead and help save our lives. We got back up, dusted it off, and fought.
You were a medic on the team, is that right?
That's correct. I was a medic, and then eventually got promoted out of medicine into kind of a senior role.
Yeah. Okay. So you ultimately ended up losing your leg in 2014.
That's correct.
You've been doing some nonprofit work since you got out. Tell me about Operation BBQ Relief. Is that how it is?
Yeah, that's right. OBR. So when I retired from the military, I was very fortunate. Life sometimes gives you lemons, you turn them into lemonade, right? I was at a speaking event in Durham, North Carolina. And we had a volunteer from OBR come tell me, hey, you should check out this organization. Well, I did. They connected in. They fed a bunch of soldiers that were working for me on Fort Bragg. And then I submitted my packet, said, that's it, I'm done, I'm going to retire. And they came back and fed them again. And I really met these amazing individuals who use barbecue, comfort food, as a medium to connect, inspire, serve, educate, and feed those in need around the country. It was really amazing to see how powerful food can be in this sector as well. Obviously, it spoke to my heart. In the military, food brings all cultures together. You sit down, break bread with your friends, with your enemies, you form new foundations. It's the same thing here. So it was a real natural progression to step into this role. Last year we fed about 6 million people. We educated a couple hundred more veterans and military on how to barbecue, give them kind of the sweet science of what we do. It's really amazing. It's a very kinetic thing.
That's a huge number, 6 million people.
That's right. That's right.
That's an enormous thing. I want to learn more about that organization later. Let's take a shift to a little bit of current events, if we might. You're getting ready to want to take on the mantle of being a congressman. And obviously Afghanistan and policy is in the news today. And I'm not really asking for Monday morning quarterbacking, but I think that having people that had military experience in the seats in Congress would be very helpful in helping steer our nation, establish, policy and strategy with regards to these types of things. What do you think are some of the lessons that you're learning from Afghanistan as we watch the situation and as it's unraveling, right in front of our eyes?
Well, first and foremost, I want to say that my heart goes out to everybody who's currently in Afghanistan, from our partners, the refugees, the people trying to get out from underneath the Taliban thugs regime, to our coalition partners who are over there trying to help out, and definitely to our men and women in the military who are, again, putting their lives on the line for those in harm's way. We can never thank those people enough. I'm crestfallen. I'm heartbroken at the lack of leadership shown by this administration. Unfortunately, I don't think the president has made a very wise choice from a short-term, mid-term, or long-term policy. In the short term, he's emboldened the Taliban. The only answer that's acceptable when the Taliban says you have to be out by this date is, no, we don't. We're the United States. We're going to get our people out, and then we'll leave when we're ready. If you don't like that, what are you going to do about it? We're the United States of America. We will protect our people and get all of our American citizens and those who supported us out. That's the answer. And unfortunately, that's not what's happening. There's the short term. In the midterm, we've left all of our equipment, weapons, nods, vehicles, aircraft, completely serviceable. Not only have we armed the Taliban to make them the very best version of themselves, tactically speaking, they can be in the short and midterm, we've also allowed them to sell these to China, to Russia, to Iran. To think that these vehicles and this equipment won't end up in the hands of most of our real dire enemies is short-sighted and foolish. And then in the big picture, let's look at the strategy of this. Not only have we emboldened Iran, Russia, China, among others, we've really disenfranchised our allies in the Middle East and our allies across the country and across the world, right? It's unfortunate. We've done a real strategic blunder in this. It's heartbreaking. And as you mentioned, we need veterans there to go ahead and help push these equities. Look at what so many great leaders out there, from Brian Max, Mike Waltz, people like that, are doing to push back and help make a difference. We owe it to our veterans to end this the right way. And it's unequivocally unacceptable that we're in this situation in the first place.
Yeah, I think there've been some tactical errors. I mean, you just don't give up your major operating air base before you evacuate everybody. Why do we give up Bagram? When it becomes evident that a lot of your equipment might fall into the hands of the enemy, you put a thermite grenade in it and destroy it. Okay.
Absolutely.
I don't understand the tactical missteps. And then, from a strategic standpoint, however, I'm wondering how you react to this, because, I've kind of felt like our mission in Afghanistan ended, or should have concluded, when we eradicated ISIS and Al-Qaeda and killed Osama bin Laden. We had some mission creep. I'll have one follow-up comment that I want to get your reaction to. But what do you think about what I just said about the mission creep and the mission in Afghanistan?
I think that we have to look at this through a couple of lenses. One, I don't think anybody wants to be in Afghanistan forever, but we had to end this on the right terms, right? We have to lead with dignity, with honor, in the best interests of our nation, our allies, and that region. By leaving the way we have, we've destabilized that country. We've further destabilized the Middle East, and we've put our nation on its heels amongst our peers and our enemies, and that's unacceptable. As far as leaving after OBL and everything else, I think that should have been a conversation we had back then. Absolutely. We needed to have a more strategic forethought on how we approach this and what our long-term objectives were in the region, in the area. Should we have still been fighting combat operations for 19, 20 years in that region? Absolutely not. But I don't think that you could just pick up and leave our allies as well. This is a very philosophical fight against ideology that doesn't like freedom. And in the end, I think we have to be able to look ourselves in the mirror and allow our soldiers to look themselves in the mirror and be proud of how they did this and the way we did it. I think if there had been more continuity between the multiple presidents who were responsible for Afghanistan, and a more concentrated approach to winning the fight, as opposed to the political game that we've seen under the Biden administration and others, this might have been a more successful retrograde operation.
A couple of years ago, a colleague of mine over a beer made a comment to me. He said, he sort of had insights into the Pentagon. He said that the Pentagon was in love with Afghanistan. The message that he gave me was that, it was a training ground. It was a place that people went to pad their resume and get combat experience, that it was an important stop for somebody who was on the trajectory, of growth within the service. How do you respond to that that statement, that the military industrial complex and the military had kind of fallen in love with Afghanistan.
I've heard that, and I can understand that person's point of view. But I will say this: there was still a mission at hand. There were still lives to be saved and a region to influence. I don't think that we could have just pulled out the way many wanted us to without that strategic forethought in that plan. I think that are there people that use that to pad their resume? Perhaps. I'm not going to throw jabs at anyone like that. I am going to say that I'm upset that we're leaving the way we are, but in the end, we needed to leave Afghanistan eventually. I'm just really heartbroken and frustrated we're leaving it the way we are, with the enemy coming back in and emboldening and empowering our enemies around the world.
Honor, duty, service. At the Veteran Crowd Network, we're focused on our next mission, bringing veterans, veteran-operated businesses, and veteran service organizations together with each other and the resources they need to prosper. That's why we are launching the Veteran Crowd Rewards Program, exclusively for our individual and corporate members. Now you can save on travel, restaurants, goods, and services from brands you trust online and at over 900,000 locations nationwide. Find out more today at VeteranCrowdNetwork.com. If you are a veteran-operated business, or a VSO, consider the connections, the network, the benefits, the engagement, and success of working with other veterans again. The Veteran Crowd Network, you paid a lot of dues to join this club.
Our guest is Jay Collins. He's a Republican candidate for the congressional seat in the 14th district in Florida. Jay, I want to shift away from the military discussion and talk about more, finance and domestic issues. $3.5 trillion budget making its way through Congress right now. What's the message that you think your constituents want you to carry to Washington with regards to fiscal responsibility going forward?
Well, I'm going to speak for someone who I love dearly, and that's my 9-year-old son. He doesn't understand why we're spending money that his generation hasn't made yet, right? Ultimately, I make my children balance their budget. They earn their money. They spend what they have, not what they don't have. We have to get this out of control spending in control. It's unacceptable to sit there and complain on one hand about how much money we spend on the war, and then to push trillions and trillions of dollars in debt that doesn't sound like it's going to solve any functional problems other than a far left-leaning agenda. It is unequivocally unacceptable. It's not what our country needs. We need to stop playing partisan politics and focus solely on what's good for the American people. I talked about it a little bit earlier. We have to represent people, elect representation that truly understand what it's like to live on a paycheck, to have your kids, go to school and pay for after school care and not have enough money to do everything they want to do. So you have to look at doing the things that you need to do or prioritize these things. Our nation should be the same. We were never meant to have these long-term, dynastic representatives. It's actually why we left England in the first place, something about representation and taxation, right? So in the end, that's what people want to hear. I believe America is ready for representation that'll truly listen to what the American people want. I'm not a politician. I'm an average American who wants to go ahead and make a difference on the world stage.
The current package is being sold and going to tax corporations. They're going to, raise taxes on the wealthy. The numbers don't add up. The middle class will ultimately end up paying the burden. I had a discussion like this years back when in the Obama administration with one of my employees who was very happy about these things, and I was a business owner, and I said, well, ultimately the business owner is going to either reduce salaries, not give as big a bonus, maybe not hire as many people, and then ultimately, that tax gets passed along again to what I'll call the middle class. And I'm just curious, how do we change the messaging? How do we get people to listen to that economic reality?
Well, I will tell you, first and foremost, you're spot on, right? Any type of tax hike is going to hit all Americans in some way, shape, or form. If you tax industry, it's going to be passed on the front side or the back side to the consumer. That's just the reality. In the end, we have to really push back against this whole Bernie Sanders mindset, right? He may have lost the nomination, but it seems like he's won the war for the soul of the Democratic Party. They're out of touch and they're out of reality. They're selling something that doesn't exist, from CRT to this whole socio-economic mess they're creating for generations across our country. The silent majority of Americans have to stand up. We have to use our voice. If we don't start speaking up and showing up at the polls and electing representation that will make a difference for our country, this thing's going to continue on. We have to speak. We have to step up. In my career in special forces, we called ourselves the quiet professionals. And this is something I've personally struggled with. There's a huge difference between quiet and silent. We can't remain silent any longer. We have to grab the narrative. We have to step forward and speak for the equities of our families now, or for the generations yet to come. If we don't right this ship, this thing's going to keep going down the wrong path. And that's not good for anybody.
What is the, in your meeting with constituents there in the 14th district in Florida, what do you think is their most pressing social or economic issue? What do you hear the most from your constituents?
Well, I'll tell you, one of the big things I hear is just this. I want to be able to keep more of my money, and I want my children to have the same freedoms and the same rights that I had growing up. Look at the path we're on. Individual freedoms are dwindling, are becoming less and less. We're taking more money in taxes. We're spending and spending and spending. So the dollars we do have don't go as far. Inflation is a very real problem, and it's going to smack us in the face more than it has now. Property values are escalating. People can't afford to live the American dream right now. That's their biggest fear. If we don't control this spending, save and take care of the money we do have, and invest in common sense solutions and bills without all the pork, we're heading down a real bad path.
You're running against an incumbent, Kathy Castor, in the 14th district in Florida.
Yes, sir.
Tell us, what's the difference between you and her? Let's compare and contrast.
Well, let's compare and contrast. I'm not a politician. I'm a retired Green Beret. I'm a real American citizen, just like everybody else. I had to work hard, growing up in northeastern Montana. I served my country selflessly for 23 years. My wife did additional 20. That's what service to your country truly represents, not a dynastic approach. Her mom was in the Senate. She's been a mainstay here in Tampa for a long time in this congressional seat. In the end, that's the biggest contrast. But let's take it a step further. She has voted 100% of the time with Nancy Pelosi, 95 to 96% of the time with AOC. That liberal agenda isn't good for Tampa. It's not good for Florida, and it certainly isn't good for the United States of America. And then the last thing I want to contrast is this. Pelosi, Castor, people like that want to separate our nation into demographics. When we're all united together as the United States of America, as our name applies, we're strong. We have so much more in common than that which divides us. I'm going to unite the people of our country, bring them together, and focus on the things that we have in common, not the things that are going to deviate and separate us. Those are the big three things I want to focus on.
I think that's really important. I do feel like with identity politics that they try to put people into a box, and we really are not, all identified by that one thing. Tell me about the plan. You have a primary not until a year from today, basically,
That's right.
in August of 22. and the election's in November. What's the roadmap for Jay Collins for the next 12 months here? How's it going to play out? You're going to be knocking on a lot of doors, I bet.
Yeah, that's absolutely it. Well, first and foremost, we're reaching out to concerned citizens in Tampa, around Florida, and around our country, friends and family who understand that now is the time to act. Now is the time for that silent majority to step up and show their voice. We have to win back our government. We have to win back the House, one step at a time. If we don't get involved in righting this ship, who will? You know, one of the things that really drives me day to day is, if not me, then who? If not now, then when? There is no better time to make a difference in our community than right here, right now. And that's ultimately why we're doing this. We have to be active. We have to put our neck on the line for the good of our family. I have a 6-year-old and a 9-year-old, and I want nothing more than for them to grow up with the freedoms, the rights, the privileges that Americans have, all race, creed, color, gender. We are a truly blessed nation, unlike any other.
Hey, thank you, Jay. One last question for you. How do people reach out to you? How do people support what you're doing in the Tampa area?
So I'll tell you what, go to our website. It's jcollinsforcongress.com. You can sign up to receive our email, our news there. You can donate. Ultimately, we need people's donations to help push Kathy Castor out of this seat. It takes a lot of support of the American people to go ahead and do this. That's the easiest way. You can see us on Facebook. You can see us on Instagram and Twitter. Feel free to reach out, share your messages, share your thoughts, and ultimately, we want to hear from you. If I'm going to be a representative for this district, I want to hear what the people want, what makes them better, what can make their family better. If we're going to represent our people, we need to hear what the people need, what their voices are asking for. So reach out to us on our website, on our socials. I look forward to hearing from each of you.
Well, thanks very much. We will put links to your website and all of your social media handles on the show notes for people so that they can reach out and connect with you. Jay, thank you for being a guest. Thanks for stepping into the spotlight. I'm going to throw a big Army Bravo Zulu out to you folks, and that's a wrap.
Jay Collins' political views are his own and do not speak for Operation BBQ Relief.
Thank you for listening to Spotlight by Veteran Crowd. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. For more information and uploads, please visit our website at VeteranCrowdNetwork.com. We'll see you next time.